Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to CAIR Michigan's webinar on employee and student rights during the month of Ramadan. My name is Zienab Fahs. I am CAIR Michigan's Director of Safe Spaces. Glad to be with you, all of you all today, whether you're watching live or watching later on. Please be sure to comment, like, share this video with your family and friends. Inshallah, it's beneficial to you all. As I stated, I'm going to be talking about reasonable accommodations or your rights as a Muslim, especially during the month of Ramadan, but also a little bit in general as a student or as an employee. So before I begin, I just want to state I am not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, so this is not intended to be legal advice. This is more so for educational purposes. So inshallah, you all can benefit from that. I'm going to be sharing my screen so you all can see the presentation and we will get started. Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties. Alrighty. Okay, bismillah, let's hope this works. Sorry about that. Okay, one more time, inshallah. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay. I believe you all should be able to see my screen. Okay. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to do it this way. Okay. Inshallah this works and you guys are able to see it well. I'm sorry about that. So as I stated, we're gonna be going over some rights that you have as students and as employees. So let's get started. Okay. Inshallah, you're still all able to see my screen. I apologize. So, first off, we're gonna be starting off with, yikes. Where do our rights come from? So, the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, these are rights that protect us, and what's neat about them is that they protect all people found within the border of the US. So regardless of your legal status in the US, your race, religion, etc., you are protected by these first 10 amendments. So, sorry, flipping screens. So freedom of religion. Freedom of religion for, as I said, anyone within the border of the US is protected by these two clauses that I have up here. We often see these, or they're spoken about when people are discussing separation of church and state. So for the first clause, the Establishment Clause, this is made so that the government cannot choose or make any religion an official religion, or promote one specific religion, or cause burden or belittle any type of religion. And then the second clause, the Free Exercise Clause, is there so that all of us have the right and the power to exercise and practice whatever religion it is that we choose, or maybe no religion at all. But these two clauses mainly protect us when it comes to public schools, universities, maybe our workplace, things of that nature. So in regards to public schools and universities, let me make this a little bigger. In regards to public schools and universities, they are considered an arm of the government. So therefore, they do have to follow or are bound by those restrictions of those clauses that we just named. Religion can't be exercised at a school if it's led by the school itself, or a teacher or an administrator or things like that. But students themselves individually can practice their religion within those institutions. So I'm going to go into showing you how you can do that. But first off, for Ramadan, and also while fasting, you do have a few rights. So during the month of Ramadan, you are not required to sit and watch everybody eat lunch while you're fasting during the day. You do have the right to ask to either maybe sit in the library with your friends who are also fasting. Maybe there's a classroom that you guys can use, or the hallway, wherever it may be. But you don't need to be watching everybody else eat. And secondly, students have the right to, and I want to use opt out maybe a little looser, but recess or gym, or maybe there are just activities that may, be strenuous or may cause difficulty during, especially while you're fasting. You have the right to step out of those. That's not to say that you're off the hook. So let's say your school is, or your gym class is running the mile that week. You may have to make that up later on. But during the month of Ramadan, you're at least able to take some time off if it's going to get in the way of your fast. Religious holidays. So I actually chose this photo. This is me dropping off date donations to MDOC facilities last year, and we're doing it again this year, inshallah. So that way Muslims, men and women housed at Department of Corrections, can sort of have something to enjoy their Ramadan and their Eid. So that's that photo. But religious holidays, those also should be accommodated to students. So you shouldn't be penalized if you're taking off a day to celebrate Eid. Again, as I stated before, it doesn't mean you're off the hook. So if you have an exam or you have assignments due, you will still have to make those up, of course. But this shouldn't, get in the way of you wanting to celebrate the holiday. And then also I want to add in, this may not have to do specifically with Ramadan, but it's good to note, praying while being at school. So I mentioned a little earlier that if the school is leading a prayer, they're not allowed to do that. Public schools cannot do that. Again, they are part of the government. But if you individually would like to pray at school, that is permissible. So long as two things: it doesn't interrupt educational instruction or maybe classwork, and also so long as you're not trying to force other people to pray with you. But schools should and have done a good job at accommodating students, making sure they have somewhere quiet and safe to pray. If your school is not allowing you to do that, or maybe your workplace later on, as we talk about it, is getting in the way of any of these rights, they are violating your right and your freedom to exercise your religion. So please make sure to contact CAIR Michigan. This is part of the work that we do, so we would be happy to help, inshallah. So now I'm going to switch over to reasonable accommodations at the workplace. So when we are at work, there are a few things that protect us. So Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employment discrimination based on religion, but also some other things: sex, race, national origin. So for example, if you are looking to make a request so that you can fulfill your religious duties, whether that be praying at work or breaking your iftar, you're able to do that so long as your request does not cause any undue hardship on your employer. So undue hardship can be kind of vague, but there are some, I guess, guidelines that we like to follow. So for example, if the employer is going to suffer more administrative costs, or if it's getting in the way of the efficiency of your job or somebody else's job, maybe it impairs with workplace safety, things of that nature, then your employer may not allow you or may have to work with you to adjust your accommodations. But the employer is mandated to at least work and engage in good faith to find a way and work with you to come up with an accommodation. So for example, common accommodations during Ramadan could maybe be requesting more of a flexible schedule. If you work evenings and your schedule gets in the way of you breaking fast and having iftar, you can work with your employer to maybe change around your lunchtime, or even tarawih, for example. If you work in the evenings, same thing. As long as it does not get in the way of, or I guess cause too much of a burden on the operation of that business, then your employer should be able to accommodate you. So to continue, there are, I guess, a few points that I would like to highlight in making these accommodations. So first off, the law protects us from, observing and practicing our religion, even if those practices are not required by religion. So for example, I mentioned tarawih prayer. That's not a requirement, or maybe Friday prayer. Those are still things that, Muslims would like to observe and practice, and they do have the right to do so. And you can make those requests. Additionally, you have to make sure that you're talking to your employer with enough time for them to accommodate you. So, probably asking for Ramadan accommodations the day before Ramadan is not the best way to go about it. And you want to make sure to provide enough time, of course, for the company or your employer to make all the necessary accommodations, but also so you guys can work together sort of for like a plan of action. That's really important. And your employer may ask you questions, which is fine. Your employer, your supervisor, they may not know maybe that you're a Muslim. They may not know how you practice Islam. So this is a good time to have those conversations with them and sort of build it out. We also say that, we know that Muslims all don't practice Islam in the same way. So even if they've had an employee who was Muslim prior to you being at that, with that employer, they may have had different accommodations for that Muslim person than they may have for you. So it is very advantageous for you to show up ahead of time, make your requests clear, but again, with the understanding that you want to make sure you're not causing too much of a burden, but finding somewhere that meets in the middle. So these are just some common accommodations in the workplace. And again, even outside of Ramadan, this could be making an exception to dress or grooming rules. So maybe there's a uniform that's required, but it doesn't fall in line with your hijab. So men or women, maybe it doesn't, sit right with you, whether it's modesty or any of your reasons. So grooming rules as well. Maybe a man wants to keep his beard. There's ways to accommodate around that. I will say each case is different. Each company is different. So a hardship for one company may not be a hardship for another company. So again, working with your employer or supervisor, and if you have any issues at all, please feel free to contact us. And then I just want to go into religious holidays at the workplace as well. So in terms of religious holidays, employers are technically not required to provide their employees with an accommodation that includes paid time off for religious observance. But you as an employee can use paid time off benefits to take off time to celebrate a holiday. So for example, maybe you have a floating holiday day off, or a personal day, a vacation day, things like that, that you can use that are still paid days off towards celebrating Eid. Or maybe you're, switching shifts with a fellow employer, or I'm sorry, a fellow employee or a colleague. So maybe they take Eid and I take Christmas, and it works out for everyone. So again, there are ways for these accommodations to take place. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight CAIR Michigan's work. We do help our clients with these issues. Just at the end of last year, we were able to provide training for a corporation. That employer didn't allow their employee who was Muslim to slightly adjust their work schedule. So we were able to work with them and provide training and help them really understand more about, what Ramadan is and what accommodations should look like, whether it's for Muslims or even non-Muslims as well. So we have also seen public schools do a pretty good job at accommodating Muslims. I say that, but also we don't know if there is an issue unless it's reported to us. So alhamdulillah, we haven't heard of, many regarding fasting accommodations or accommodations religiously at all within public schools in Michigan. But if you are experiencing any, again, please reach out to our office. We'll be more than willing to work with you and see how we can help. And in addition, we are pretty proactive and we have a good relationship with a lot of schools in the area. So sending out letters before each Ramadan, sort of reminding them of what those accommodations look like, has been extremely helpful. So those were just a few quick tips, and also some more information about understanding your rights and your freedom to religion in the US. I hope that was helpful, and if anybody has any questions, we can take those. If not, we can move on. I don't see any questions in the chat.
Well, to the viewing audience, assalamu alaikum, and thank you, Sister Zienab, for your valuable presentation. I don't see any comments as of yet. If there are any comments that we can answer, or any questions that we can answer now, we will put those up on the screen. If not, you are free to contact our office at either going to cairmichigan.org and emailing us, or giving us a call at 248-559-2247, 248-559-2247. And I will just make one additional point, or reiterate something that Zienab stated, and this is in regards to our rights in schools. And schools in Michigan, many districts, at least in southeastern Michigan, do a pretty good job at accommodating Muslim children. Not all, but one thing that you should know, no matter where you are at in the state, is that very few districts in Michigan, I believe it's only 4 school districts in the state, actually recognize the Eid holiday. So if you want your children to not go to school, this can be an excused absence. So that would mean that you would need to contact the school prior to, contact the teachers, and it will count as an excused absence, not an unexcused absence. And all of that work should be able to be made up, including if there are tests or exams, and the school has to accommodate you. And of course, we're telling you this for informational purposes, but we've helped people in the past wade through this. So this is something very important. And you have these rights, but you have to invoke your rights, right? Many times people just aren't going to give you your rights. You have to invoke your rights. And then also teachers or administration aren't mind readers. And as Sister Zienab alluded to, there are different Muslims who have different faith practices, and some are just, culturally follow certain things and not follow other things. And Eid holiday might be one of those, right? So you have to invoke your rights in order for your rights to be respected. And this is something that we always tell people at CAIR Michigan. In conclusion, I will make this point for those who are for the viewing audience. And this is just a reminder. I said this on the first day of Ramadan. You probably heard every leader, almost every leader of a Muslim organization, be it a religious social services or civil rights has probably mentioned this, and I'm going to mention it as well, is that the honorable companion and cousin of the Prophet, salawatullahi wasallam alayhi, named Abdullah ibn Abbas, wallahu anhuma, he said that the most generous of people, Ajwad an-Nas, the most generous of people was the Prophet, and he was most generous in the month of Ramadan. And we know that this is the month in which all of our good deeds are amplified and multiplied on our scales. And we know that generally Muslims tend to be more generous in per following the Sunnah and donating during the blessed month of Ramadan. So this includes giving sadaqah more frequently. Some people try to make it their intention to give a small piece of sadaqah every day. And then some Muslims, including myself, I wait to pay my zakat al-mal every year during the month of Ramadan. So I'm appealing to you as CAIR Michigan's executive director to please give some of your sadaqah and or some of your zakat al-mal to the Michigan chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. And I'm being very specific and not being shy about it, mentioning CAIR Michigan for two reasons. One is that we are doing khidmah or work on behalf of the community. No one is getting wealthy doing this work. We are doing this work as khidmah on behalf of the community. This is your organization serving you and serving the broader society. And then number two, CAIR Michigan, to let you know, we are our own separate legal entity from our national office. We pay a annual affiliation fee agreement to our national office. So money doesn't trickle down, we send money up. So you can support the national organization, that's fine, but that money doesn't meet our budget here in Michigan. So I have to be very clear about that. I will conclude with this statement as it relates to giving. And this is from the fourth Khalifa, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Karamallahu ta'ala wajhu wa salawatullahi alayhi. He said to his son, Imam Hassan, he said to him, Kun fit dunya bi badak. He said, be in this world, be in this dunya with your body. Wa fil akhirah bi qalbik. He says, but in regards to the akhirah, have that with your heart. So we've heard this saying before, that let us keep the dunya in our hand, but not in our heart, right? So this relates also to our charitable giving. Like our material lives is nothing but a loan that we've been given by Almighty God, by Allah Azza wa Jal, right? But our heart shouldn't be overly consumed and overly attached to dunya, right? We live in the world, but our aspiration is akhirah, and we all know that eventually we have to we're going to be asked about everything: how we treated our bodies, how we spent our wealth. So let us make the best of this Ramadan. We are an organization that's primarily funded by the community. We don't get any grant money from the federal government or any governments overseas. That's a misconception about CAIR. We're not getting funded or grant money by some waqf or foundation abroad or anything like that. That's not the case. And also a certain percentage of our constituency are zakat eligible people who are in financial crisis because they have been fired from their jobs or lost their jobs, or there's been some sort of musibah or calamity that has struck. And hence, we assist those people who are zakat eligible and help them with our services, including Muslims who are masakin and fuqara, or fuqara in particular, who are incarcerated. And some of those is some cases that we've dealt with. And you may know that just because everyone is incarcerated doesn't mean that they're guilty, right? There are people who are awaiting trial, and there are some people who've been unjustly incarcerated that we've helped in the past, such as Sister Sawatu, which is one of our more recent cases that we've done in recent years of a Muslim sister who was unjustly incarcerated. So this is where CAIR Michigan's work comes in. And so please, you can give us an online donation, or you can send a check or money order to our office in Canton, and it's scrolling right there. And if you don't give today, keep this in mind. Consider donating to us during the last 10 days and 10 nights of Ramadan. And for those of you who are watching, please share this video in your WhatsApp groups, or now it's Signal, some people have, over email, share it on your Facebook as well as on Twitter. And we look for your financial support and your moral support, and part of your moral support is sharing this information. And last but not least, we also ask for your sincere dua, your sincere prayers to protect the staff and the board members of CAIR Michigan, and pray that Allah Azza wa Jal increases our rizq, increases our sustenance, and we believe that these prayers will be answered. This is the month of answered prayers from Almighty God. So please keep us in your prayers, and just don't be like those who say you're in my thoughts and prayers. Actually make the prayer, actually make the dua, please. And you're sincere, and Allah is as-Sami' and al-Alim. Allah is the one who's all hearing, and he hears without having physical eyes, and he has knowledge of all who utter anything to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's as-Sami'. So please help us and fulfill those requests I just made. Do you have any further comments, Zienab, before we close out?
I should be good. I appreciate your thoughts, prayers, and donations for all of you thinking of us this Ramadan. And I echo everything that Brother Dawood said. We really do appreciate the support, even in liking, commenting, sharing these videos. As Brother Dawood stated, we are an organization for the community, made by the community, made possible by the community. So inshallah, we can continue to receive your support, receive your dua, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.